Let's be honest. Parenting is not just hard, it's heartbreakingly hard. It's messy, vulnerable, complicated, and full of moments that make you question everything about yourself. And yet, here we are, doing our best with what we know, what we've learned, and what we're trying to heal from. But let me tell you a truth that's difficult for many of us to say out loud. Some things your child says are not okay, not because they're being bad kids, but because they're trying to navigate big emotions without a roadmap. And without boundaries, they start building their emotional compass with bricks made of manipulation, disrespect, and power games. When we talk about walking away, I don't mean abandonment, I mean boundaries. I mean teaching your child, you don't get to treat me like this, and I will not model silence in the face of verbal harm. Because here's the thing, kids aren't born knowing how to regulate their emotions or express them responsibly. That's our job, but we can't teach them respect if we're tolerating emotional abuse in the name of unconditional love. So let's dive in. These are 8 phrases that should be red flags. And more importantly, they are invitations to step back, breathe, and walk away not in punishment, but in power and protection. I hate you. Let's sit with this one for a second. If you've ever heard your child yell, "I hate you," you know it can feel like a wrecking ball swinging through your chest. You pour your soul into raising them, you bend until you're breaking, and still, in a moment of rage or rebellion, they throw those 3 words like a dagger. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Kids don't always mean what they say. What they do mean is, "I don't know how to handle this boundary," or "I'm overwhelmed and I need help regulating my emotions." However, and this is critical, just because it's developed, mentally normal doesn't mean it's emotionally healthy to let it slide unchecked. Because if "I hate you" becomes their go-to weapon every time they're denied something, you're no longer raising a child who's learning boundaries. You're enabling a pattern of emotional manipulation. And here's where it gets even more complicated. When we as parents don't walk away or hold firm, we teach them that love equals submission, that people who love you must tolerate being disrespected. That's not love, that's codependency disguised as compassion. Walking away in that moment doesn't mean you stop loving them. It means you love them and yourself enough to say, "I will not stay in the room with someone who speaks to me this way, even if that someone is my child." Because kids don't just learn how to treat you. They learn how to treat themselves, their teachers, their friends, and eventually their future partners. By calmly saying, "We'll talk when you're ready to speak respectfully," and removing yourself from the storm, you aren't abandoning them. You're showing them that love and respect must coexist. They might cry, they might slam a door, they might feel rejection, but they're also learning that explosive words have consequences, that relationships don't survive on apology alone, that connection is never more important than dignity. And as they grow, they'll look back and remember, "My parent didn't scream back, they didn't grovel, they didn't lecture me into guilt. They stood in their worth, and in doing so, taught me mine." That's the kind of lesson that outlives the tantrums. You're the worst parent ever. Let me guess. You were just doing your job. Maybe you said no to a sleepover. Maybe you refused to buy them that 5th piece of candy. Maybe you told them screen time was over, and then, boom, the words come flying at you like a slap in the face. You're the worst parent ever. It hurts. Not because you believe it, but because you're trying so damn hard to be the best parent you can be. And in that moment, it feels like all your love, effort, and sacrifice have been thrown out the window by a child who can't yet understand what it means to love someone and hold them accountable. But here's the deeper issue. This isn't just about anger. This phrase, "you're the worst parent ever," is a form of emotional punishment. It's not just about expressing hurt feelings. It's about making you feel bad for doing what's right. It's a pressure tactic, a guilt grenade, and if we take the bait every time, if we try to over-explain or bribe our way back into their good graces, we teach them that love can be manipulated. That's a dangerous lesson. Now, let me be clear. It's developed, mentally normal for kids to push back against authority. It's part of growing up, but there's a line between rebellion and cruelty, and when that line is crossed, it's not your job to fight for your honor. It's your job to model what self-respect looks like. When a child says something meant to cut you down, the most powerful response is not to shout or defend. It's to walk away with calm clarity. Say something like, "I won't stand here and be spoken to like that. I'll come back when we can talk respectfully." Because when you disengage from disrespect, you're not quitting the conversation, you're elevating it. You're showing your child that parenting isn't a popularity contest, that boundaries don't disappear because someone's mad at you, that their feelings matter, yes, but they do not justify emotional warfare. Over time, this teaches them something that will serve them for the rest of their lives, that you can disagree with someone, even be furious with them, and still treat them with dignity. That lesson, it starts with you walking away, not to punish, but to protect the integrity of the relationship. And believe it or not, that boundary doesn't drive a wedge between you and your child. It builds trust because they'll come to know, even when I lose control, my parent won't. Even when I go too far, they stand firm, not to shame me, but to remind me of who I'm capable of becoming. That's what parenting from worthiness looks like. I don't care what you say, this one is quieter, it doesn't come with yelling, it doesn't explode in your face, it's cold, flat, delivered with a shrug or rolled eyes. I don't care what you say. It's a subtle, dismissive little phrase, but it carries the weight of complete emotional shutdown. It's not rebellion that's loud and messy. This is rebellion that's dismissive, and the message behind it is simple. You don't matter. Now, let's pause here, because some parents panic when they hear this, especially if it starts happening often. They rush in to plead, "Please listen to me. I'm trying to help you. I'm doing this for your good." But let's be honest with ourselves. When we beg to be heard, we're not parenting from a place of strength. We're parenting from fear, and here's the thing about kids. They're incredibly attuned to your emotional energy. If they sense that disrespect doesn't come with a cost, if they know they can dismiss your authority and still get your time, your energy, and your engagement, they learn quickly that they hold the power in the dynamic. That's not healthy for them or for you. So what do you do when your child says, "I don't care what you say"? You walk away, not in anger, not in punishment, in clarity. You don't need to defend your worth as a parent. You don't need to convince someone to care about what you've already earned through love, presence, and leadership. What you do need is a boundary. You say, "It's okay if you're not ready to hear me, but I won't keep speaking to someone who chooses not to care." And then you step back, not because you're giving up, but because you're giving them the space to feel the silence their words have created. Because here's the truth, walking away when someone devalues you teaches them what emotional self-respect looks like. And in a world where people are taught to chase love, approval, and validation at all costs, this is a radical and life-saving lesson. When your child says they don't care, they might just be testing how much you care about yourself. Let your response show them this. You can love fiercely and still refuse to be treated like you're disposable. That's not harsh. That's holy. You always ruin everything. Ah, yes, that one. The phrase that usually shows up right when you're trying to do the right thing. When you're setting a boundary, when you're making the hard call, when you're putting their long-term well-being over their short-term desires, you always ruin everything. and suddenly the room fills with shame. You feel like the enemy in your own home. This phrase doesn't just attack your parenting, it attacks your identity. It paints you as the villain in the very story where you've been showing up as the hero, working late, cooking meals, losing sleep, saying no when it would be easier to say yes. But here's the truth behind this phrase. It's not about you. It's about a child who doesn't yet know how to process disappointment. You always ruin everything is a coping mechanism. It's a dramatic, immature way of expressing frustration, of saying, "This didn't go my way, and I don't know how to handle that yet." But just because it's developed, mentally normal doesn't mean it's emotionally acceptable. Because when we accept this language, when we chase after it with explanations or cave in to make it better, we teach our kids a dangerous pattern. Guilt gets results, emotional blame equals power, and pain justifies disrespect. No, we don't teach accountability by over-apologizing. We don't teach emotional resilience by over-explaining. We don't teach respect by over-functioning every time our kids lash out. What we do is this: we walk away with peace, with grace, with a firm, calm voice that says, "That's not how we speak to each other. I'll come back when you're ready to talk respectfully." You're not abandoning the child. You're abandoning the chaos, because children need to learn that their emotions are valid, but they are not free passes to hurt other people. They need to know that frustration doesn't cancel dignity. That anger doesn't rewrite truth. That disappointment doesn't come with a permission slip for destruction. And the most powerful way they learn that is by watching you calmly leave the room when things turn toxic. They may slam doors, they may cry, they may double down, but underneath that storm is a seed being planted. My parent didn't yell. My parent didn't chase. My parent didn't crumble. They stood strong, and they still loved me. And when they're older, when the world hands them rejection or loss or conflict, they'll know how to respond because you taught them with your boundaries. You didn't ruin everything. You just refused to be ruined in the process of raising them. Why can't you be like other parents? Oof, that one stings, not because we believe it, but because we're human, because we try, and hearing that phrase, especially after doing your best with the tools you have, feels like your worth is being compared, measured, and found lacking. Why can't you be like other parents? It's not a question, it's a dig, a manipulation wrapped in comparison, and it's subtle, right? It sounds less aggressive than "I hate you" or "you ruin everything." But don't be fooled. It can do just as much damage, especially when it starts to show up as a pattern. This phrase is designed to trigger guilt, to make you question your instincts, to pit your child's temporary disappointment against your long-term wisdom. And here's the trap: if you take the bait, if you start adjusting your parenting to look more like the fun parents or the cool parents or the permissive ones, teach your child something dangerous: that comparison is more important than character, that boundaries bend under pressure, that your self-worth is up for debate. But you and I both know good parenting doesn't always look good in the moment. It looks like saying no. It looks like showing up when it's inconvenient. It looks like being the bad guy today to raise a better human tomorrow. So what do you do when your child throws that phrase at you? You don't defend yourself. You don't argue. You don't spiral into shame. You walk away, not in silence, but with self-respect. You say, "You're allowed to be upset, but I'm not here to compete with other parents. I'm here to raise you with love and values." And then you give space, not to punish, but to break the cycle of comparison that poisons both of you. Because here's the truth: you don't need to parent like other parents. You need to parent like you, the version of you that shows up, holds line and leads with both love and limits, and maybe your kid doesn't understand that now. Maybe they'll sulk or accuse or withdraw, but later, years later, they will remember the parent who didn't flinch, who didn't try to win them over, who didn't compromise their own voice just to feel liked, and they'll realize what you were doing all along, raising them with courage, not popularity. And that is the bravest kind of love there is. I wish you weren't my parent. This one leaves a bruise that no one sees. It's a sentence that echoes, even long after the door slams, even when they say sorry, even when they're back to laughing and needing you again. I wish you weren't my parent. It's one of the most painful things a child can say, because it doesn't just reject your rules. It rejects you. Or at least it feels like it does, but here's the truth. When a child says this, it's not about who you are. It's about what you represent in that moment. You are the boundary. You are the voice of accountability. You are the person telling them no when the world tells them they're always entitled to yes. So yes, it's heartbreaking, but it's also not personal. It's emotional immaturity speaking through frustration and confusion. It's the child's way of saying, "This feels unbearable, and I need someone to blame for my discomfort." And when that moment comes, the temptation is real. To argue, to cry, to say, "After all I've done for you." But let's be honest, that's not love speaking. That's wounded ego, and you don't need to prove your worth as a parent to a child in crisis. You just need to protect your peace and theirs. That means walking away, not out of spite, not to punish, but to break the cycle of escalation, to calmly remove yourself from the fire before it burns deeper. You say, "I know you're upset, and I'll be here when you're ready to speak to me with respect, but I won't stay and be spoken to like that." And then you walk. Because one of the greatest lessons you can give your child is this: my love for you is unconditional, but access to me, access to my presence, my emotional availability, my time, is not something you get to abuse. We are not our children's punching bags. We are not here to absorb pain so they don't have to feel it. We are here to guide, to model, and yes, to walk away when necessary, because love without boundaries isn't love. It's self-sacrifice, and that doesn't raise emotionally healthy humans. It raises emotionally entitled ones. And here's the beautiful redemptive twist. When you hold this boundary over time, your child learns something they may never put into words, but they will feel it. My parent didn't let me push them away, but they also didn't let me push them around. That's not rejection. That's respect, and that's what real, wholehearted parenting looks like. It's all your fault. This one is sneaky because at first it sounds like disappointment, but underneath it's not just a child trying to understand what went wrong. It's a child trying to offload shame. It's all your fault. It's blame. It's emotional dumping. It's handing you a mess of emotions and demanding you carry the weight. And the worst part, if you're a parent who already struggles with guilt or self-doubt, and let's be honest, who doesn't, you might pick up that blame and carry it quietly, secretly, even if it isn't yours. But here's what we need to name with radical honesty. When we allow our children to make us the villain every time they're upset, we aren't teaching them accountability. We're reinforcing a cycle of emotional outsourcing. You are not responsible for their every mistake. You are not responsible for their every disappointment. You are responsible for showing up, setting limits, and guiding them with love. And when your child says, "It's all your fault," you don't have to stand there and absorb it like a sponge. You can pause, take a breath, and then calmly say, "I won't be blamed for things that aren't mine. When you're ready to talk about what you're feeling without hurting me, I'll be here." Then walk away, not to create distance, but to create clarity. You are not punishing them. You are refusing to play a role in a narrative that strips both of you of dignity. Because here's the thing, when a child learns that blaming others is a fast way to avoid responsibility, they carry that pattern into every relationship they'll ever have: friendships, school, work, even marriage. And you're not just parenting for this moment, you're parenting for who they become. By walking away, you teach them emotions are valid, but blaming others for them is not. Connection isn't built on accusation, it's built on honesty. You don't get to throw your pain at someone else just because it's too heavy to hold. And you're also reminding yourself that being a good parent doesn't mean accepting everything your child throws at you. It means being brave enough to set boundaries, even when it breaks your heart. Even when they scream, "This is your fault," and you know you were just doing your best. Because parenting isn't about perfection. It's about protecting the relationship by refusing to let it turn toxic. That's not walking away from your child. That's walking toward a healthier version of both of you. The silent treatment weaponizes silence sometimes. The most dangerous words aren't spoken. Sometimes the harm doesn't come from yelling, name, calling, or outbursts, but from silence. And I'm not talking about a child needing space to cool off. I'm talking about intentional silence, the kind that's delivered like a punishment, the kind that says, "You hurt me, so now I'll hurt you," by pretending you don't exist. And if you've ever been on the receiving end of that cold, icy stare from your child, the refusal to speak, to acknowledge, to engage, you know it doesn't feel like a pause. It feels like rejection. And here's the hard truth. When kids learn that giving you the silent treatment gets attention, control, or power, they begin using it not to regulate themselves, but to manipulate you. And if you're constantly trying to break through that wall, begging them to talk, softening your boundaries, over-apologizing just to get them back, you teach them that stonewalling works. But here's what emotionally resilient parents know: silence used as self-regulation is healthy. Silence used as emotional punishment is abuse. Yes, even when it comes from a child. Because when they shut down communication as a power move, it's no longer about a fight, it's about emotional control. And your job isn't to chase them down. Your job is to model what healthy separation looks like. So what do? You walk away, lovingly, calmly, without guilt. You say something like, "I can see you're upset. I'll be here when you're ready to talk respectfully, but I won't chase you for connection. That's not how love works in this house." And then you hold that line. Because chasing them teaches them silence holds power. Waiting for them calmly and without emotional panic teaches them emotional maturity, that they are still loved. But manipulation won't work. They may sulk. They may hold out, but eventually, when you don't take the bait, they will come around, and when they do, that's when you build the bridge, not from guilt, but from growth. Let your child learn this now. Even when I pull away, my parent doesn't fall apart. But they also don't grovel. They love me enough to wait, but they love themselves enough not to chase. That's a boundary. That's love, and that's exactly how you teach them to handle disconnection without destruction. So let's be clear. Walking away isn't quitting. It's not rejection. It's not emotional abandonment. It's not you giving up on your child. Walking away is a conscious, courageous act of love that says, "I will not participate in conversations that dishonor me or you. I will not reinforce patterns that teach you that love tolerates abuse. I love you enough to draw a line and stand behind it." Because here's what I know in my bones: you can love your child with your whole heart and still say that's not okay. You can be a safe place without being a silent punching bag. You can set boundaries without breaking the bond. Children learn not by what we say, but by how we behave when things get hard. And when you model calm strength, emotional maturity, and self respect, even in the face of their anger, you are shaping a future adult who will know how to love, how to apologize, and how to rise above their worst moments. So, the next time your child says something that crosses the line, pause, breathe, and if you need to, walk away, not because you're leaving them, but because you're leading them with love, with boundaries, with bravery, and that, my friend, is what real parenting looks like.